Auditor-General provides assurance to Parliament on the accountability and performance of the Victorian public sector. The Auditor-General conducts financial audits and performance audits and reports on the results of these audits to Parliament. On the 19th of March 2015, the Auditor-General tabled his performance audit report, Emergency Service Response Times. Timely responses to emergencies can directly affect outcomes. Measures of response times are therefore critical to understanding emergency service performance. However, we found multiple problems with the design of response time measures and methods for calculating results. Response time targets are outdated or not based on evidence, and current measures and reports do not properly cover the range of emergency responses. Reports on response times should offer more information, including trends, actual times, and regional variation. Our analysis of response times since 2012 also found that statewide emergency response times have been relatively stable. To increase accountability and transparency, agencies need to improve emergency response time measures and reporting to better demonstrate performance. Ambulance Victoria, or AV, the Country Fire Authority, or CFA, the Metropolitan Fire and Emergency Services Board, or MFESB, the Victoria State Emergency Service, or SES, and Victoria Police all respond to 000 calls received and dispatched by the Emergency Services Telecommunications Authority, or ESTA. The Department of Justice and Regulation, or DJR, and the Department of Health and Human Services, or DHHS, are responsible for coordinating and monitoring emergency responses. The departments report response time performance in state budget papers for ambulance responses, structure fire responses, emergency medical responses, and road accident rescues. The audit's objective was to determine the extent to which agencies are accountable for emergency response time performance. To do this, we assessed the relevance, appropriateness, and fair representation of response time performance measures, what reported information actually tells us about performance, and how agencies use this information. We looked at Code or Priority 1 responses from the 1st of January 2012 to the 30th of June 2014. Response time measures and targets currently in place do not allow proper understanding of emergency service response time performance. We found that none of the response time targets are based on up-to-date evidence or a clear rationale. For example, targets for structure fire responses are based on outdated scientific research and work the MFESB undertook in 1987. For all other targets, agencies were unable to provide any explanation for their basis. Without valid response time targets, current measures fail to describe performance in any meaningful way. Some response time measures also include activity not entirely within agency control. For example, AV and SES measures include substantial components of call processing time that involve the work of ESTA. Neither DHHS or DJR has fulfilled its responsibility to annually review the ongoing relevance of these measures, meaning that these long-standing issues have not been addressed. Overall, while we found that response times are relevant measures of emergency service delivery, they need to be considered as part of a broader set of measures that look at factors such as outcomes. A further example of problems with the design of response time measures is that they do not appropriately cover the range of emergency responses. Due to narrow definitions, the measures reported by DJR in state budget papers exclude 83% of Priority 1 emergency responses by CFA, MFESB and SES, as shown in this graph. Conversely, the majority of AV's Code 1 responses are included in its emergency response time measures. Reported performance fairly represents actual performance in most cases. Minor errors and misreporting that we identified were the result of control weaknesses, particularly poor calculation methods and a lack of data auditing. There are also inconsistencies in the way that agencies calculate response times for the same kinds of emergencies. Despite more reliable data being available since 2011, DHHS and AV had not been using the most accurate data for rural ambulance responses, leading to statewide performance being overstated by 1 to 2%. Victoria Police response time data is not yet reliable enough for external reporting due to a lack of controls and incomplete data. However, our testing found that it was complete enough to be useful for internal monitoring. Neither DHHS nor DJR have fulfilled their obligations to ensure that the data and methodology underpinning reports on emergency response time measures is auditable and verified for accuracy. This is consistent with our 2014 Public Sector Performance Measurement and Reporting Audit, which also found departments had not fulfilled this requirement. In summary, we found response time reports were mostly accurate. However, agencies should tighten controls to prevent the risk of greater errors. Noting the lack of evidence supporting all emergency response time performance targets, all services except AV are performing at or close to those targets. AV has not met targets since the organisation was created in 2008. We found that 90% of Code or Priority 1 emergencies were responded to within a range of 7.8 minutes for urban area structure fires to 27 minutes for statewide road rescues. Response times were stable statewide, but they varied between regions, agency, location, and type of emergency. Public response time reporting does not provide enough information for Parliament or the public to properly understand performance or know how long responses in their area are likely to take. External reports on response time performance lack times, trends, regional variation, and analysis of the factors driving performance. Only MFESB has routinely reported the actual number of minutes it takes to respond to urgent calls from the public. Additionally, a focus on reporting high-level statewide data also means that there's little understanding of how performance varies across Victoria. The agencies that measure response times use this information to drive improvement, although some do not report sufficient detail to senior management. Given the relevance of response times to some of Victoria Police's internal goals and service delivery objectives, it could make better use of existing data for internal performance measurement. In summary, in order to improve response time reporting, reports should offer more information, including trends, actual times, and regional variation. We made 10 recommendations to 7 agencies to improve the response time measures in regards to targets and coverage, the accuracy and usefulness of reports of response time performance, agency oversight of response time measures and consistency of approach to shared measures, Victoria Police's use of available response time data. The agencies have supported all recommendations, although some agencies accepted them in principle only. DHHS accepted recommendation 4 in principle, pending outcome of a review of their measures and targets. Victoria Police accepted recommendation 9 in principle, pending the results of their review of the quality of available data. Agency responses are contained in Appendix B of the report. The Auditor-General will monitor agency progress against the recommendations over time. In summary, the 4 key issues raised in this performance audit are: response time targets are outdated or not based on evidence. Response time reports are mostly accurate and reliable. However, agencies should tighten controls to prevent the risk of greater errors. Response times have been stable statewide, but vary significantly between regions. And reports should offer more information, including trends, actual times, definitions, and regional variation. In conclusion, our audit found that Parliament and the public cannot effectively use current response time reporting to hold agencies to account for performance. Other relevant reports are listed on this slide. All our reports are available on our website. If you have any questions about this or other reports, or if you have anything else you'd like to discuss with us, including ideas for future audit topics, please call us on 03 8601 7000 or contact us via our website.